Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television, and it's that segment where we bring you the stories that made it to the front page of select newspapers in Nigeria this morning. And as it's a tradition, we would begin this morning with the Daily Trust. And the major story on the Daily Trust is on the killing in Imo. Again, gunmen ambush security operatives, burn corpses.
Goodness, I saw the video and I regretted it immediately.
Well, somebody had forewarned me, and so I stayed away. You know, I made deliberate efforts not to see one. I needed to guard my mental health at all cost. 8 soldiers, police, civil defense among victims. Police launch manhunt, panic grips residents. Obviously, when your last line of defense is breached,
and the manner they were ambushed, it was premeditated. It wasn't a chance happening.
Governor charges securities agency, but we should go beyond this rhetorics and to really get in this culprit. It's becoming rampant. To other stories, Atiku Obi challenged Tinubu's victory as Supreme Court files 85 appeal grounds. Mohbad protest in Lagos, Ogun, and Delta as Sanwo-Olu invites DSS. I like the solidarity of Nigerian youths. To think that
on social media
never stumbled on that name until his death. Even though his music's popular, you know.
And you know, it speaks to that NSAS phenomenon again.
That's right.
Where something starts trending on social media and then the government notices and then it gets traction. And I really think that...
I think as at yesterday there were instructions to exhume the body. I was surprised that given the controversy that surrounds his death that they had to rush that burial. An autopsy
I think he died today, he was buried the next day.
You know, that was swift. You know, I hope the autopsy would sort of lay to rest what those issues were. Summons, arrest, threats by National Assembly can scare investors away. This is coming from the organized private sector. I think the National Assembly is beginning to make itself some kind of daredevil institutions. They want you to start fretting the moment they issue invitations. But what we see in other democracies are basically invitations for you to shed light around your operations and all, and where you need the security agencies to then carry those investigations forward. They can do the forensic aspect of those.
But I also think more often than not, they are intimidated or annoyed to a point where they have to issue those arrest warrants. I don't know if any of those arrests has been effected in the past before, but the threat of it, I can understand it being difficult. But then again, if you have nothing to hide, what's wrong with appearing before a committee?
But you know how indiscriminate some of these invitations can be. So you just sit without understanding the workings of a chief executive. For instance, you may be summoning somebody who is at hunger with the president, and then he fails to attend, and that becomes an issue. So there is no harmonization. But the other part that Nigerians are talking about, it's even the fact that these guys are failing in oversight, and what these investigations is what they call oversight. But we think that, or me think that oversight would also involve leaving the National Assembly complex and visit these projects
to the field,
you know, or even commissioning experts to do evaluations. And one more story from the Daily Trust. Hunger, Tinubu says unfair treatment from abroad hindering Africa's progress. I think we can still take more. Nigeria gets 95,000 slots for 2024 Hajj. I mean, at 4.5 million naira, I don't know how much of this we can take. This is the much we can take from the front page of the Daily Trust.
The People's Daily is up next. Let's take a look at the story starting from the very top. Man, 36, nabbed for raping neighbor's wife in Adamawa. Atiku, PDP, lists 35 grounds to nullify Tinubu's election, says Presidential Election Petition Court erred in law, judgment miscarried. The big story on the front page of the People's Daily says diphtheria death toll rises to 520 in Kano, according to an official. Unimmunized children was hit, and we really have to do something about that because Kano, Bauchi, a couple of other states, I think Kaduna also, some of the hardest hit with these diphtheria cases, and that in itself, even Plateau State has been recording some of those cases. You have a picture of President Tinubu there, flanked by some of the members of his delegation. I can see the governor of Gombe State, Governor Inua, Governor Sanwo-Olu, is that Makinde, Governor Obasani of Kaduna, and the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum. This was before the president delivered his speech. ACF gives 100,000 naira to Kano tricyclist who returned missing 15 million naira to owner. I saw that boy. My goodness, I was really impressed. Really impressed. I mean, look at how difficult of a time people, at the bottom of the pyramid are going. And he saw this is cash money, and that boy returned all of it. And people like that deserve to be celebrated.
Yes, I hope those who got to the lady, the Eco Hotel lady who returned the $70,000
the cleaner.
This guy. Yes.
Yeah.
These are
we still have some good people in this country. Really, people like this make me proud to identify, myself as, their compatriot, and, very unusual, but
absolutely
very commendable also, the gesture. Insecurity, Benue Police Command to mop up arms. We don't pay bandits for protection, according to Niger community. And we are owed 2 months' salary in Governor Agbu's 100 days, according to Taraba ASU chapter. And it's safe to say that the situation in Taraba is very, very deplorable.
Honestly.
Very deplorable. And
all right.
That's it on the People's Daily this morning.
Okay, and moving on to the Daily Times, we have the story there, similar to what we're taking in one of the papers. OPS accuses National Assembly of stifling businesses and chasing away foreign investors. Says it is a Supreme Court with legislative arm over someone. In Supreme Court with legislative arm over someone invitations, and mom's the word from the National Assembly. And to other stories, Nigerian airline operating under harsh economic conditions, says DG of the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority. Ministry raises committee over multiplicity of airport charges. This was a big issue at the last aviation roundtable in Abuja, where they said Lagos and Abuja are the most expensive airports in terms of charges in the whole of Africa.
Rightly so.
Yeah. And to other stories, court award massive 0.1 trillion damages against NNPC, NLNG, and others. This is about 100 billion naira damage award. Gunmen kill 8 security operatives in Imo. No increase in fees for returning AAU students, the VC, and release funds to treat boy with missing intestine abroad. Lagos Assembly urges governor. And finally,
I think they said the boy died.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I read a story this morning.
There could be an update on this story.
Yeah, this morning.
That may have come after this had gone to bed, perhaps. And gridlock in Abeokuta as youths demand justice for Mohbad. This is really getting traction.
Yeah, the necessary one also. Let's take a look at the Voice of Liberty newspaper. I didn't know there was a newspaper, but let's take a look at it. Appointment, Northern Elders, NBMOA congratulate Dr. Baba Ahmed following his appointment as special advisor. And Atiku storms Supreme Court, seeks reversal of tribunal's judgment. There was no storming, I can guarantee you, but they're heading to the Supreme Court either anyway. Dangote refinery to commence operation in October with 370,000 barrels per day, according to a director at the company. And interestingly, and I think we have to talk about this Sunday, they say that he's going to import crude.
Yes.
And I don't understand that.
Well, I think it's a short gap measure. The way the crude oil industry works is everything is structured. So people know your capacity, and they would have buyed up all your supply for a period. And so when they were ready, the NNPC told them they are committed to crude sales contract that would not allow them any more crude. At any rate, remember that we are struggling to meet our OPEC demand.
But
some 600,000 shortfall of crude production.
That fuels the conversation that we're not going to buy cheap from Dangote. If he's importing crude, it's not going to be cheap PMS. There's no way we're going to get cheap PMS.
Your guess is as good as mine. But we understand that by November, all of that would be resolved, because the NNPC is also a stakeholder in the refinery. So it is in their best interest that some of this thing happen. But what is good about that disclosure also is the fact that there is an arrangement for them to get crude from the NNPC at a reduced rate. Okay. And by extension, that would feed into how much they get the refined gasoline from the NNPC.
That's a very Nigerian development. I'm telling you. Anyway, back to the front page of the Voice of Liberty. Petrol scarcity imminent as diesel hits 1 6,100 naira a litre. We can't restock or access loans, according to oil marketers, as they continue to grow. Turkish firms back contracts to secure Nigerian borders. Okay. Highest crime rate ranking Nigeria 15th most violent country globally, according to a report. And then there's a lot more from the president's speech at the United Nations General Assembly and the Imo attack on security operatives.
All right, that's the much we can bring to you, just to allow for some deep dive into the issues that made it to the front pages of the paper. And to do that for us this morning, we have, as usual, in the studio, our friend and our boss, a forerunner in this profession, Mr. Ben Shaman, former Director of News, Voice of Nigeria.
Thank you for the adjectives.
To ask for a favor from you. Right. Good morning, Mr. Ben.
Morning,
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the issues are numerous, but painfully, or rather on a sad note, it's that we are losing men to this senseless killing. This time around in Imo, 8 of them from cutting across the military to the police and the civil defense. Considering that there will be elections in this state in a couple of weeks, what's your first impression, or rather your impression of what's going on in Imo?
I think it is calculated to a kind of give the impression that Imo State is ungovernable. It is also deliberately done because it's a kind of an ambush, because it was not a kind of face or crossfire kind of incident. So this was already planned. But what citizens should also have to do is, when you see strange movement, those who are not carrying what you call authorized equipment, they should, I mean, a call could be put somewhere, because a situation where your place is made ungovernable, I mean, you two will not have it nice.
When you talk about citizens acting in that manner, do they have that amount of orientation? Have we raised awareness to the level where people understand what number? I mean, abroad, the 911 thing is like the first thing you learn as part of your socialization. You just know that if you are in any kind of trouble, this is the number to die. Do we have that kind of orientation that would elicit a citizens-led response or intervention, to quell this kind of attack?
Now, see, Sunday, there's this captain in the Nigerian army. If you remember the plane crash that happened in Benue State, we had generals, 13 died. When they were all over looking for that plane, a boy went to his father's farm and saw the wreck, or the wreckage there, picked the phone of one of the victims, called the father. There's a plane crash here, and that was how they went and did some rescue. They got 5 people alive. So why did that boy, I think Tembe Chair, something like that, that should be the name, and that saved the life of General Nuhu Ambazo and many others. Former GOC 81 Div, Obina Ajunwa. So that's saved. So what am I trying to say? When you see something that is wrong, truly we don't need to begin to look for government to give us the orientation. It is already in us that when you even see, I mean, a dog trying to deal with a small goat anyhow, you should intervene, not to talk of some people trying to lay ambush, cause mayhem, kill people who have indeed come to protect lives and property.
But so is that something peculiar with regards to what's happening in the southeast? Because we know how deplorable the security situation is. Away from just the agitation of IPOB or activities of ESN, just 2 days ago, some of their members were neutralized by the security forces there. And we also know of the insecurity in Imo itself, even before the election, especially after the Supreme Court overturned Governor Hedio's victory and Senator Hope Uzodimma became governor. The insecurity there has been quite heightened over the past few months. But do you also think that with the elections coming in a few months' time, that insecurity will be heightened? And then are you also surprised that the security apparatus has not adapted to the guerrilla-style operations of ESN and IPOB that are perpetrating these heinous crimes.
You see, when you go back to history, once upon a time during the military regime, there was Otokoto, there was Colonel Zuberu. Colonel Imo State was almost a kind of ungovernable during a military regime. The moment Colonel Zuberu was sent there, things changed for the better. Those who felt were untouchable, he touched them. So there was a kind of a peace. But now we've seen that democracy has come. Some people are taking a kind of human rights for liberty, a kind of. And you have so much intimidated the residents there for them to believe that, look, it's like Big Brother is watching you. If you ever read the George Orwell book, 1984, where you believe that, look, if I mention to the security operatives that so place there are some guys hiding, it's like those guys are watching you. They'll be made to believe that no matter what you do, we'll trace you. So why don't you believe the reverse way, that no matter what the bad guys in society do, you will assist security to ensure that they are a kind of eliminated, brought to justice. So I think that the people of eastern part of Nigeria in general, not just Imo State, this issue of sit down at home, what has happened to your economy? How do you pay your school fees? How do you earn a living? We know that place to be very, very, I mean, when you're talking of the engineers, let me put it this way, of Nigeria, you go to eastern part of this country. Imagine all of those things collapsing just because fellow citizens are feeling that, no, you must not have better life. You must not survive. You must not live. And therefore, you target security agencies for elimination. And theirs is, if we can kill 2-3 soldiers or policemen, therefore yours is a lesser kind of a thing. I think that the Imo people should just hit their chest and say, we are up to the task. What do? Reveal them. They live with you. It's not as if they are somewhere else. If you also go to the farm and you see strange movement, please do. You don't need to look at them and start running a commentary. By the time you leave that place, you pass on information. And also the security agencies, when you get those information, you don't need to reveal where it came from. And this will be done. But a situation where some people will feel, let us make the place ungovernable and drive away investors, I mean, it's not the best.
All right. Moving on to other issues, the organized private sector, it's complaining about the incessant and overburdening someone by members of the National Assembly under the guise of probe or investigation. For them, this is scaring foreign investors away. Do you agree with this assertion by this group?
I don't agree with that assertion, because look at what you call the petroleum industry bill of those days that turned out to be the act of today, right from the days of Obasanjo. When you had, I mean, there were these allegations. The moment you bring the bill and these international oil companies will see that they're going to pay so much, they begin to I mean, have some parties, some relationship with the committee members, and before you know it, they begin to condemn the bill. It's too voluminous. There's no time for this. There's no time for that. Gentlemen, you're talking of oversight function. If the National Assembly members fail to do their job, they are failing Nigerians. And a situation where you just sit down in the comfort of your chambers and begin to summon these people, come and account for what you have done or what you failed to do or what you intend to fail to do, it's not it. We want to see a situation where you also involve the press. I've seen instances where committee issues, no, we don't need the press in this matter. The press will have to be there, because if you look at Chapter 4 of the Nigerian Constitution as amended in 1999, Chapter 4 gives the right, the press, look, hold the government to account to what they are doing or what they intend to do. If you fail the people, I mean, it's like the press is not mirroring what is happening in society. So I think that it is wrong for the organized private sector. Look at the adjective they have, organized. So please be organized in such a way that tell the National Assembly they should not do bad things. Why should there be someone if truly they are doing bad things? And I think that the national, not just someone, go to the scene. If there are roads that are supposed to be constructed, go to the roads. Go with the press. If there are things to be supplied. Now, when the coronavirus broke out, there was money set aside for Nigerian scientists. Go and research on this. Now we have seen a lull. What is happening to that money?
But isn't that also a justification to, counter your argument about, the committees doing their job? Because over time, some of these committee hearings that have given Nigerians this bombshell revelation into developments in government, whether it's the NDDC boss pretending to have a seizure or heart attack or go unconscious during the briefing, during the hearings and things like that, and then nothing, it doesn't amount to anything. I mean, it does appear that it's just grandstanding more often than not to intimidate people, issue warrants of arrest for these officials if they fail to show up as at the time the committee wants to see them. Don't you think that some of it is just grandstanding? It's not necessarily in the interest of Nigerians, because for the most part, we haven't seen anybody punished because a committee has uncovered some sort of wrongdoing in the past.
And to add to that, Ablai, they begin to tell us we are going to reveal. To what effect? Please reveal, not just reveal. Can you carry all your investigations if you know there is substance in them? There are elements in them. Why don't you take him to prosecuting authorities? Give it to the police, give it to the ICPC, give it to the EFCC, and just hands off. But a situation where sometimes you talk behind the scene and you do things behind the scene, you come and play to the gallery before cameras and show to the world we are talking. Look, talking is different from doing what you're supposed to be doing. Nigerians are suffering. You said you're going to reveal. Please don't just reveal. Look, tell people, the police, tell the IG, arrest this guy, prosecute him, because these are the facts. And you can be principal witnesses when it comes to prosecution. But when you just sit down and begin to move motions, we're going to do this, it doesn't help us.
We always like to draw comparisons with the United States and some of those Senate hearings. Dreaded because you don't want to go there and lie under oath, because if you do, that's just jail time for you. And more often than not, we've seen so many heads roll as a result of that. If only that were the case here in Nigeria, I'm sure the organized private sector will not have an issue with this particular development. When
some people will feel that they can always hire big lawyers, elongate the case, keep on adjourning and adjourning. The lawyer is either sick, or there is this one who is supposed to bring witnesses, or the exhibits have been locked, and all that. Nigerians are suffering because some people are refusing, or deliberately they've elected to refuse to do what is supposed to be done, so that Nigeria moves forward.
All right, moving forward, from the Daily Trust, it's reporting that Nigeria is getting another 95,000. I think we got 95,000 last year. A slot for Hajj. But what's newsy is the fact that there is an initial 4.5 million peg for participation, and we understand that amount could go as high as 5.5 million.
Because of the foreign exchange.
Because of the foreign exchange. The foreign exchange has continued to dance Awilu, according to somebody. So as it moves, every other team moves with it. But what do you make of this 95,000 slot? Does it seem visible?
Well, you see, it's like, okay, you have the slot. But do you have the capacity when it comes to money? And usually some people again begin to look at government. You just have to subsidize this for us to move. At the point, it's my own candid opinion. If I'll go to heaven, it's not the duty of my governor in Kaduna State to take me to Jerusalem. It's my real private opinion.
Are you?
But
so it's safe to say that you're against the idea of the state subsidizing pilgrimage,
honestly, now we've been
or even sponsoring it, because more often than not they're the ones sponsoring it.
I'm not against going for holy pilgrimage. It is one of the pillars of Islam. You know, in the Christian circle, if you feel like going and you are capable, you can also go. But the situation where some people want to make it a political tool is just not it. And all these years, what indeed has changed? Some people come back from Jerusalem, come back from Holy Land, Saudi, Mecca. They tell us that, look, prices of goods we went 5 years and met are still the same this year. But in Nigeria, the moment you're talking of fasting period, religious festivities, that is when prices of everything will just go up. If you go to some other countries, like Germany, by the time it is October, they've started celebrating Christmas. Prices of goods will just crash. They just do guanjo, go and buy things so cheap. But in Nigeria, no. Instead of us to now show that humanity, that religious thing, it is that time we want to make a harvest. This is a mixture of religion and capitalism done the wrong way in Nigeria, which truly I think we should examine and re-examine, reorientate our minds. What are we doing? Is it actually moving us forward? So a situation where we again look at even the bodies that are in charge of this. Abdullahi, Sunday, ask some guys who indeed will open up to you and tell you what is happening there. You won't believe these are the people organizing this holy pilgrimages.
It's a very lucrative industry.
Yes, some who have even paid. There are always this magu kind of a thing. You don't get to go. You make some deposits. You don't see it. You now see it much later. You know.
Just before we wrap up, your thoughts. 85, is the number of the appeal grounds filed by the APC. I beg your pardon, by the PDP and the Labour Party heading to the Supreme Court. What are your thoughts about that?
Truly, I have not seen where...
Is this just going to be one of those academic exercises at the end of the day?
That's exactly what I'm going to... I have not seen where the Supreme Court has ever annulled presidential elections.
And there will be no president this time, you're saying?
I don't know where that president will come from. I don't know. I'm sounding a bit pessimistic in terms of this. But whichever way...
Because you don't think there's a case, or just because you don't think it's going to happen?
Well, there could be a case, but is there justice? It's for everybody to a kind of go prove your case.
Okay.
If you go as Atiku or Labour, please go with succinct, clear evidence. Look at it so that the facts would be there and they will speak for themselves.
Okay.
And if therefore you're going to say, no, you won this election, that's Tinubu, you say, look, the other side is just not getting it right. They got it wrong. This and this is how I got it. And my chief umpire, INEC, is there to support, because usually when you say no...
Why do I get the impression that you're beginning to sound like the Supreme Court? Already. All right. I wish we had time to take more, but suffice it to say that at the Supreme Court, what will be happening largely is a review of...
and we do hope they actually allow for it.
And it's not as if they're adding more facts or fresh facts.
You can't bring in fresh evidence at this level. But let's see whether they can get them to review some of the points that were made, because we are seeing conflicting judgment at the state tribunal, where something is said to be different. The presidential tribunal, the state tribunal, it is admissible. Well, we continue to keep tabs on development, and you can be sure we'll bring you all of the latest on it. I want to thank you very much for finding time to be here. As always,